Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I hope my voice is clear.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Yes, alhamdulillah, it is.
Okay. This is Dr. Ambreen. I am Associate Professor in the Department of Family and Community Medicine. Today, I shall like to welcome you all to the 5th Research Club activity, which is entitled The Successful Submission to the IRB-KSU. Today's session will be presented by Dr. Shatha Alduraywish. She is an assistant professor in community medicine and an epidemiologist. She is also the deputy chair of KSU-IRB committee. In addition, she is also the director of the Prince Sattam bin Abdulaziz Research Chair for Epidemiology and Public Health. So I welcome Dr. Shatha. And please note that all the questions will be taken towards the end of the session. And if you have any query, you may write in the chat. Thank you. Welcome, Dr. Shatha.
Thank you, Ambreen. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for attending this our departmental activity, which is actually related to the most specialty in the College of Medicine. Our today's talk will be about successful KSU-IRB submissions. I'm sure that most of you have submitted already tens of papers for approval from the KSU-IRB committee, and most of these papers got accepted. However, we are still facing problems in delaying the acceptance or rejection or sometimes reassessment for many of the proposals. I will try during this session to highlight the most important reasons that lead to delay acceptance or reassessment or rejection. طبعا بالنسبة للlevel of acceptance or delay submission or reassessment, it's all not related to the specific specialty. It's not related to the degree of the people who are submitting these proposals. Sometimes you're facing a consultant, their proposals get reassessed or rejected. It's all technical issues. We will try to highlight all these technical issues بإذن الله على أساس إنه ما يكون any delay في acceptance or any reassessment or any rejections. It's just a few tips that we will highlight it, and we will go throughout all IRB forms related to King Saud University. So as Imran said, if you have any questions, we will take all these questions at the end of this session.
Dr. Shatha, I think you're muted.
Okay, so is this from the beginning?
Yes, we haven't heard anything in this slide.
Okay. Sorry, thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Ambreen, and thank you everyone for giving me the opportunity to present about successful KSU IRB submissions. I'm sure that most of you have submitted tens of papers before to the IRB committee, and they got approved or sometimes reassessed or rejected of these proposals. Today's sessions, we will highlight the most important reasons that lead to delay acceptance or lead to rejection or reassessment of the proposals. It's always not related to specific degree or specific specialty. Sometimes junior people who submitted the complete IRB proposals and they got accepted, and sometimes a very senior consultant or professors still their proposals get reassessed or rejected. So we will try during this session today, inshallah, to highlight the most important reasons, and we will go throughout all KSU-IRB forms. As Dr. Ambreen said, if you have any questions, you are more than welcome at the end of this session. So every institute have, especially the clinical or practical medical institute, have an IRB committee, which is the Institutional Review Board, who are independent body established to protect the rights and welfare of human research participants. So this is the main aim for the IRB committee. It's just for the welfare for the participants themselves and also for the researchers, and for any violation, any improper conduction of the research, or any complaint from the participants, you have the right, as you got the approval from an independent bodies. Sometimes other institutes, they call it an independent ethics committee or ethical review board. So it's all have the same the same function or the same job. Actually, here in Saudi Arabia, or in King Saud, when we talk about King Saud University, we have the three main committees. The first committee related to human studies, the other committee related to the animal studies, and the third committee is related to humanitarian committee. And there is a central committee in the King Saud University, which reported to the Central National Committee in KSU. But this is one arm of King Saud University's IRB, which is related to any human study. So whenever the college in King Saud University, whenever the researchers from any colleges at King Saud University, they want to submit, they want to conduct a research on human subject, and they want to submit it, they have to submit it to the KSU-IRB. So it's not related only to King Khalid University Hospital or related to King Abdulaziz University Hospital. Any colleges at King Saud University, but these research involve human participants, or even any products from those human participants. So the IRB is a committee that has been formally designed to approve, monitor, and review. So this is the main function for the IRB. They will just go through the proposals and all submitted documents, and then they have the rights to approve it, or to monitor it, or to review the ethically and of biomedical and behavioral researches to protect the right for both participants and the researchers. Any clinical investigation must be reviewed and approved by the IRB, and no clinical study may begin enrolling participants until it has received the IRB approval. The main purpose of the IRB is to safeguard the rights, safety, well-being of all human research participants, considering the three main ethical principles: the beneficence, minimal risk, and the justice for all the participants. So the main theme, while the IRB committee reviewing the proposals, is just to make sure that there is no harm for those participants, whenever this type of harm, physical, psychological, any types of harm. The other things is that there is a justice, everyone has the right to participate, and the participation is voluntary, and also there is a benefit of conducting this research. عشان كده يكون في reviewing the scientific merit of all the related literatures to that topic. But how this will happen? First, by reviewing the full study plan for research study, ensure that the research meets predefined criteria, the proposal is clear, is completed, the methodology is fine, and the participants know everything related to that study. The second thing, they are confirming as an IRB committee, they confirm that the research plan do not expose participants to any unreasonable risk. Whenever this type of risk, even if it's a minimal risk. Reviewing and approving a proposed payment or other compensation to study participants, and this is one of the major ethical issues in scientific research or in clinical research, is that there is no payment or no compensation for the study participants, and no forcing for them to be part of this study. Ensure that the human participants' protections remain in force throughout the research, throughout continuous monitoring of the study, throughout the research durations. It might be even for cohort study or randomized controlled trials, this might be extended for many years. Considering the adverse events, interim findings, and any recent literatures that may be relevant to the research, and that's why they need to have a full revisions of the IRB of the proposals or the study proposal, and assessing the suspected protocol violations, complaint expressed by the participants, or any violation of institutional policies. This will have, this occur throughout a continuous monitoring of the interim analysis, and this might be happening maybe a minimum of 1 year. Reviewing proposed changes to previously approved study. For any change or major changes that happen to the previously accepted proposals, they will review these changes and make sure also it met the requirement for the IRB committee, that there is no risk to the participants. So these are the main purposes of the IRB committee. So the IRB has the authority to approve, disapprove, or terminate all research activities. Second, they have the rights to require any modifications in the protocol, including a protocol of previously approved research. So they have a comment sometimes after a revision. We provide the comments to the researchers, and they need to reply to these comments and clarify further on the proposals. The IRB also committee has the authority to require the participants to be given an additional information that assists in making the informed decisions to take part in this research. And this is why the informed consent is a very important part of the ethical committee. Require documentation of informed consent or allow the waiver of documentation. And this is one also of the requirement. So these are the main purpose of the IRB, and this is an overview of what the IRB committee is doing. So now we will focus on the KSU-IRB. So KSU-IRB, and our forms, the time or timing for meetings, the way of reviewing the proposals, it might be different from institute to another institute. The last date for submissions كلها تختلف. لكن we will highlight our KSU forms because once your participants from King Saud University or from any of the hospitals that belong to King Saud University Medical City, and then they need to follow this form and they need to complete all these forms. First, I'm sure that most of you knows, there are specific dates for the committee to meet. Usually this happens last Thursday for every month, and this timetable is actually announced for every academic year. So if you noticed here that there are almost 9 meetings during the academic year, starting from September and end at the June, and during the summer vacations there is no meetings. Unless there is an expedited track and they will review it. But for the full board review, it's only 9 meetings, and during summer vacations there is no meetings. So if you plan to do any research, then you need to submit it before the summer vacation. Actually, these are the dates for the meeting. For example, it's actually now we have the 24th of March meeting, and then 2 more left meeting. And then it's very important to know that this is the deadline for submission. So if you want your paper to be reviewed during this meeting, and then this is the deadline for submission. For example, for this 24th of March meeting, this Thursday, then all submitted papers, the deadline for that submission was 3rd of March. After 3rd of March, it will enter the other meetings. And then there will be no meeting during Ramadan. Inshallah, after Ramadan, in Shawwal, there will be 2 more meetings, one in Shawwal and one in Dhul Qa'dah. So if you have any planned proposals that you need to submit it and it require a full board revision or review, then you need to consider these dates and this specifically this deadline for the submission. This timetable is actually announced from the committee, the ethical committee, every year. So for submissions and inquiry, please email the following IRB staffs. We have Dr. Taha, Ms. Rubies, and Ms. Ophelia, and then Mr. Wahir. Because previously, before the pandemic, we were receiving a hard copy of the approval letter, but now it's turned to be sent through the email. But for any concern, any inquiries, then you need just to contact those individuals, and they are very helpful to answer your queries. And even if you want to submit, still, unfortunately, we do not have any electronic submission for these forms, and we tried many times to work on it, and we are trying now to work on the online submission. But right now, all submissions happen through emailing the forms into Dr. Taha or Ms. Ruby or Ms. Ophelia. So in general, KSU-IRB review categories, whether it might be expedited track review category or a full board review category. The expedited track category, there are different forms. I would say non-interventional studies forms, وفي عندنا interventional or clinical trial forms. For each, you need to know your research follow which category. If you do not know, just send an inquiry to the IRB personnel, whether Dr. Taha, Miss Ophelia, or Miss Ruby, and then ask them that this is your research and this is what you are planning to do and these are the objectives. So which forms you need to follow, whether the expedited track forms or the full board review forms, because this is one of the main reasons that lead to delay acceptance of your proposals if you complete incorrect forms. So as you can see, this is a more general forms related to non-interventional studies, and for interventional studies, it's more specific and more detailed information is there. And we will go through most of these forms and highlight the most important ones. We will start first with expedited track, because this is a very fast track and you do not have any deadline for submission. You can submit it anytime. Previously, yes, during the last 2 years, it was very, the acceptance from expedited track was very delayed, but now, alhamdulillah, the things is move faster. And inshallah, within a few weeks, you will get approval for expedited track. As a general consideration, any proposal for no more than minimal risk will be considered expedited track. This in examples of the studies that carry no more than a minimal risk is a non-invasive procedure, the study that contain non-invasive procedures or methodology, such as any questionnaire-based, any retrospective studies, any studies that involving any administration of drugs or medical devices, any study that that's considered as a routine of practice methods. They are just assessing or describing what's happened in routine practice. Any observational studies with no intervention with patients or participants, ممكن أيضا systematic review، ممكن اللي هو studies that conducted on اللي هو body tissues or such as اللي هو for example teeth، أو تكون اللي هو مثلا placental products لكنها outside the human body. Anything that's considered اللي هو carrying no more than minimal risk and there is no ethical issues with this study, it's considered اللي هو expedited track. There are 9 forms of KSU-IRB expedited tracks, but you do not need to complete all of them. It depends on the type of the study. إذا كان مثلا عندنا online survey، في عندنا different informed consent عن questionnaire based survey. إذا كانت أيضا sometimes a case report لها different forms. But just ask the people who are working in the IRB office about which forms that you need to complete based on the study title and the objective of your study. It's very important to consider that along with these IRB forms, it's requested for the templates of any study tool to be used. A template or a copy of the questionnaires that you will use is very important to submit it with along with the main proposal. Any data collection sheets if the study is based on the secondary data source, any collaborative agreements, any for master students, طبعاً a letter from the supervisors or institute should be attached. These are very important forms, and sometimes the delay in acceptance or delay in approving the study is because you haven't attached a copy of these required documents. It's very important to know also that bioethics certificate is now mandatory for all investigators. Previously, it was only for the principal investigator, but now it's mandatory for all investigators. There is a short course announced by the CACST, and it's online course. You can take it within 15 to a maximum of 30 minutes. So let's look at the main forms for expedited track. This is the checklist for submissions of research protocol for expedited review. You need to add the research title here and the name of the primary investigator here. So you need to fulfill all these requirements for expedited track. First, you need to submit the proposal, and should be detailed proposal, and it is in IRB formats, the KSU-IRB format. Also, all co-investigators should sign the proposal, and this is one also of the most important points that most of the researchers didn't consider it. Whenever you add the name of any individual or any researcher or any physicians who will be a co-investigator in this study, his or her signature to that form should be included. ولو ما كانت included ممكن يكون في delay في الapproval. طيب informed consent form also should be completed, and it depends on the type of the study. Signed the IRB declaration, conflict of interest, also it's one of the forms and it should be signed. Also the signed and dated IRB certificate of confidentiality, the signed and dated CP for the principal investigators. Actually, we need only the CP in the IRB CP template. It's not a complete or full CP. It's just one paper that's included some information related to the principal investigator, and it's not necessarily to be submitted by all investigators. For retrospective studies or department other than the investigator department, approval from the unit involved should be attached. Provide brief descriptions, the rule for each investigator, and this is attached in the main proposal. Data collection sheets, questionnaire, study tools should be attached. For master students, letter from supervisors should be also included, and a certificate of bioethics. So once you check that you have attached all these forms, all these required documents, then you will not have any issues for selecting inappropriate or incomplete forms. So this is the main proposals. If you see here for expedited track categories, we do not need more details like the full board review. فعشان كذا لو تلاحظون إنه main proposal form is different. It would be better before you submit or complete these forms, you need to ask the IRB office whether your study is an expedited or considered as a full board. Okay, so for this is the main proposal form for the expedited track, and if seen, this may cause annoying for some researchers that why do we need to complete in Arabic or in English, because at the end all these proposals who end in the Central National Committee, so and we are the country that's the Arabic is our main language, we need only the abstract to be written in Arabic. The way of writing this, it's up to you whether you want just to write first a full abstract in Arabic and then full abstract in English, or you want to mix it. And يكون the same, for example, research title Arabic and English at the same time. Actually, we prefer to يكون a full abstract in Arabic and full abstract in English. You need to include the title of your research, the principal investigator and from which department, and then the co-investigators. The study durations, actually, it's expected. Sometimes as you have this plan, this is the expected duration of the study. It might increase or decrease, it's fine, there will be no issue. If there is a fund, then you might need to include what is the proposed fund for this project. Make sure here, this is a summary, it is not the full proposal. And this one of the common mistakes that most of researchers are doing is that they put everything related to their research in the summary. Please, this is a summary and it's included from no more than 200 words. Just what's the study title, what's the main problem, and what is the significance of your research, what would be your research objective, and what's the summary of your methodology. It's not a detailed methodology. Make sure once you complete these forms, you follow the instructions. This is a summary, so it is a summary. Then we do not expect to see a full proposals written in this section. And this has happened many times, it's not only one time. And then this is very important that the principal investigators need to sign here and date add the date of this signature. The second papers is related to adding the investigator's name, their academic title, and their departments and their signatures. And this is why when we ask that all co-investigators, they should sign it here. This is the form that where all investigators sign this proposal. So in some researchers, only one investigators, other of them, it depends on the type of research. And then you need to add the contact details for the principal investigator. Then you need to highlight the research objectives. Make sure always that the research objectives is met the SMART criteria. They are specific, measurable, time-bound, and specific, measurable, time-bound, and time-bound achievable. So these are the characteristics of objectives. It should be in the action verb to do, to assist, to investigate. This is a very important because most of the research some of the research that has been submitted, the objectives were not specific or it's not measurable. So make sure that you've written your objectives in a very clear way. it's no matter whether you write it in a dot points or you write it in statements, but أهم شيء إنه تكون very clear objectives. Then you need to add a literature review. I've seen many studies that does not contain a proper literature review parts. Literature review, what has been done before, related to this study, related to the main study. So the IRB committee, once they review the paper, they have seen the scientific merit of conducting this research. They understand that the researcher has spent a lot of times looking for previous literatures, and he understands what he will do in his research, and they know what is the underlying gap in the knowledge that they need to be filled in this research. But as long as one of the reasons for delay approval أو ممكن reassessment in literature review part is inappropriate, or it's not written properly, وممكن أحيانا يكون it's only very short literature review part which does not cover the main purpose of this research. But make sure that you've written a comprehensive, but it's not very long literature review related to the research proposal. Then the research methodology, which is the most important part in all IRB forms or legal proposals. It should be in detailed, it should include detailed information as much as you can as a researcher. Imagine that the people who are reviewing your proposals are not expert in your field, but they are methodologists, and they can assess whether this research is doable, and there will be no harm to the participants, and there will be benefit of conducting this research. So please specify all these included informations. So for easiness, we have specified them in this form. So you need to include the study design, how you will conduct this study, what's the name of this design, whether interventional study. طبعا بما انها expedited study, it won't be interventional, راح تكون طبعا questionnaire based or online survey study, ممكن تكون cross sectional studies. Whatever the study design, just you need to include it here. The expected study duration, it might be 1 year or less than 1 year, just to specify it, when you will start it and when you will expect it to finish. The study setting, this is the most common confusing by most of the researchers, is that they do not understand what study setting. Some of them report the populations. It's actually where the study will be conducted. So if it's in for example, King Khalid University Hospital, at which clinic, at which department, then just specify it. This is what study setting means. Then the study populations, what is the sampling technique? Who will be your study population? You need to specify them here, add detail as much as you can, how you will select those participants, what are the characteristics of those participants, and this the estimated sample size. No study will get approved unless they provided the estimated sample size, whose sample size calculation. So it's very important. We do not expect to see just number here, that the estimated sample size, for example, will be 50. That's it, full stop, this is not accepted, and then it might need revision. But أهم شيء how you end up with this number. Sometimes some individuals or some researchers use a software programs for sample size estimation. Some of them use a formula. Just add the details of this formula and how you end up with this estimated number. Then eligibility criteria, what are the inclusion and exclusion criteria related to the study population, any ethical considerations. As long as this is an expedited track, for most of the ethical considerations related to confidentiality and voluntary participation of the individuals. There will be no more ethical considerations that need to be considered, as this is an expedited and it's questionnaire based, or there is no direct intervention with the human subjects. Data collection methods, data source, from where you will collect the data. If there is a questionnaire, for example, what are the sections of that questionnaire, how you will ask it, how you will distribute it, from where you get it, whether it's validated or not validated. Add all these details in this section. And then lastly, the statistical analysis. What's the proposed statistical analysis? You need to consider the variables that you will use in your research. So what's the type of these variable, whether a qualitative or quantitative, whether categorical or continuous variables, and then which statistical test that you will use to achieve your study objectives. After that, finishing the old methodology, you need to add references, because this is a proposal and it's based on a scientific background. Then you need to include the references, especially for the literature review part. The last part is the certificate of confidentiality. The principal investigator need to read all this and sign it at the end. The principal investigator name and sign, and then the date. Then the research time schedule is very important also to include, and then it will be reviewed by the IRB member that how you are planning to conduct your research. So this is the end of the main proposal form for expedited track. It's straightforward, very simple, but the information included needs to be very clear to the people who are reviewing this proposal. This is another form related to the expedited track, which is called the Arabic consent form for online survey. So if you are planning to do an online survey, you need to complete this consent form. طبعا في العربي and in English also. This is the Arabic form. Just complete all these missing informations and make it more related to your research and for you as principal investigator. And this is the same form, but in English format. This is the informed consent for questionnaire based. It's not online. This is online survey and this is questionnaire survey. طبعا هذه العربي في منها English. This is the for questionnaire. There is English and also there is Arabic. It's all what you need to complete is the title, the name of the principal investigator, the name and address of institute, and contact details. And then you do not need to complete this unless you have the participants with you. So this is the same form and in Arabic format for questionnaire-based study. Okay. This is another form related to KSU-IRB, Study Delegation Log. Sometimes some of the research projects related to delegations or involvement of other co-investigators, you need to specify which responsibility of those co-investigators include by adding the name of this co-investigator or any additional person in this research, what is their responsibility and what's their initial and their signature. So you do not have to include start and end date unless you have a very specific task you needed. Most of the expedited research, they do not have any delegations, so you need to complete this form, add the investigator protocol title, and then sign it here. So as even if you do not have any delegations that you need to attach it or it's not included in your proposal. This is a certificate of confidentiality completed by the principal investigator and the title of this study, and then sign it. This is the CV for the principal investigator. As I said before, it's only one page and it's very condensed information related to the principal investigator, and it should be attached with all submitted IRB form, whether it's expedited or a full board review. The common reasons for delay acceptance or rejections. طبعا rejections مع expedited track it's not commonly صراحة. I haven't seen any paper it's rejected because of expedited. لكن ممكن يكون عندنا delayed acceptance. Why? Because people they are filling the wrong format. ممكن they fill the format for a full board review and then they need to refill it again, or using the missing information, incomplete forms or missing forms. إنه مثلا عندنا 9 forms and they completed only 2 forms. So the presence of any missing forms, incomplete forms, for example, that the proposal form, مثلا deficit in the literature review, deficit in the objectives or in the methodology, then this is the main reasons for delay acceptance. Sometimes poorly written proposals, and this is a very common, that the proposal is not understandable, it's not written in a very proper way, and this might lead to delay acceptance, and many comments from the IRB members to revise and amend. Unclear rationale. If you do not have a clear rationale why you are conducting this study, then there is no point of accepting your research and no points to conduct this research on human subjects. So before you apply for the IRB, you need to have a full plan and why do you need to conduct such type of a study. There should be a scientific merit, there should be a significance and implication for your research. If your rationale is not clear, and as a member who are reviewing this proposal, you do not understand what the researcher aiming to do, and then this might be reasons for delay acceptance. Unclear methodology, and this is a common mistake that's happening, and common reasons for why we got a delay acceptance with many comments from the IRB member, because the methodology is not clear. Whether they did not specify the study design, they did not specify the location, they did not specify which data collections tool they will use, or who will be the populations. Any incomplete or unclear methodology, this is the main reason for delay acceptance for expedited track. Any missing related documents, such as data collection sheet, questionnaire, copyright permissions, if not attached with the main proposals, and then this might lead to delay acceptance. Lastly, the common reasons is that the study carry more than a minimal risk. Then it should be assessed by a full board, not expedited track. فهنا you are wasting your time by completing the wrong forms and then waiting for the others to review it and give you the format. That's why I always recommend you, if you are not sure whether your study belongs to expedited or a full board, just ask the IRB office and then ask them whether this is a full board or expedited, so you save your time. Okay, this is regarding the expedited track. Now we will move to full board review category. The full board review track, there are up to 16 forms for full board review. Like these forms vary, depends on the type of the study. So if you have, for example, a drug or device, you need to complete specific forms. If you have radiation, you need to complete in your study, then you need to complete specific form. If you have a genetic testing, you need to complete some forms. If you will conduct a genetic testing and the samples will be sent outside Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for analysis or processing, then you need to complete another form. So all these forms, a total of 16 forms, but it's not necessarily that you need to complete all of them unless they are directly related to your proposal. Along with these forms, it's requested for the templates. أيضا نفس الشيء إذا كان, if you are using, for example, a questionnaire, in addition to interventions, and then you need to provide a copy of this questionnaire, a copy of data collection sheet, any collaborative agreement. So even if master students submitting their proposals, they should have a letter from their supervisor or institute. A bioethics certificate is mandatory for all investigators, سواء they submitted to expedited or a full board review. So this is the checklist for expedited track. You need to go through these checklists or tick it, whether it's yes, you have attached it, or you haven't attached it, or it's not applicable based on the type of the study that you are conducting. As you see here, compared to expedited track, it's a very long checklist with more details included, because this is interventional study and you will intervene with the human participants. This is the main proposal for the expedited track, and this, for the full board review track. And you will see that many more information is required here and more details needs to be added. But as long as you have completed this form in a proper way, and believe me that you will not get reassessment or a rejection. So you need first to include the title in Arabic and in English. You can see here in the main proposal form for the full board, it's only required the title of the study to be in Arabic, no other things completed in Arabic. لكن sometimes we are receiving proposals from the colleges, اللي هو students in the colleges that their main language is Arabic, like اللي هو كلية الرياضة مثلا أو كلية علوم الأغذية. The full process is completed in Arabic and there is no issue in this. يعني عادي يصير رفجر وما فيها أي إشكالية. But as long as you will conduct your study in Arabic, then completed in Arabic, and then it will be reviewed in Arabic. إذا كان in English, you only need to just add the Arabic title for your study. And then the contact information. طبعا this is the updated form, latest version. The principal investigator detail, the name, the phone number, email, department, and the status, whether they are faculty, postdoctoral, postgraduate, or master students, or hospital staffs, or a non-physician. Are there co-investigator or co-author? If yes, then you need to add their names, detail, and the department, and what's their role in the project, what is the expected date to start the project, and the estimated date to complete your project, and when did you submit this project. The section 2 related to collaborating institute. Some of the researches, it's not only conducted at King Saud University, but other collaborative institute as present. So you need to declare which are, what are these institute and whether they are national or international, and what's their involvement, and whether did you get the approval from other institute or not. this is a very important لأنه أحيانا يكون في yes there are other sites involved in this study but it's nothing mentioned about their IRB approval. ممكن يكون ongoing approval, yes fine. ممكن يكون you already get the approval from other institute. ممكن يكون still on the way to submissions. Whenever the status of the IRB approval from other institutes, just declare it here. If you got the approval, attach it with appendices. Attach the IRB approval form from other institutes. If your study contains collaborative institute from outside the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, then you need to specify the country, the address of institute, or this collaborative institute or this facility. You need to include the address as per requirement of the Central National IRB, and then describe their involvement and what is the IRB status or ethical approval status in that centers. So this is a very important, and some of collaborative researchers that include collaborative institute, they did not complete all this information. They just add, they just mention, yes, there is collaborative without adding any detailed information. So make sure that you completed all required information here. If it's inside Saudi Arabia or if it's outside, you need to complete this part. Section 3 related to funding information. Is this research being funded, yes or no? And then what is the funding agency? And these are a list of funding agency. So sometimes the reasons for reassessment إن يكون في عندنا مثلا the principal investigator declare that there is no funding related to this project. However, when the IRB members go through the methodology or the procedures that the researcher will do during this research, يعني it is costly. يعني it doesn't make sense that they will not have any fund for this. فهنا ممكن ترجع ونطلب منهم declaration للfunding source. Sometimes إذا كانت عندنا مثلا pharmaceutical companies أو pharmacological companies اللي فيها involvement في الريسيرش، أو كان مثلا international institute وفيها يعني إحنا we will be branch of this institute وفيها a big fund that will be يعني gain for the purpose of this research. هنا المفروض إنه البروجكت يصير له submit للclinical trial unit اللي هي CTU الموجودة في المستشفى الجامعي, and then after يعني you finish everything related للfund and completed their forms, they will send it to the full board for an ethical revision. فإذا كان في عندنا big fund research وجاي من external source, and then this should be revised by the CTU first, and then the CTU he will transfer it to the full board review for ethical consideration. So please consider this issue لأنه أحيانا الfunding reasons it might be reasons for reassessment. So these are the possible sectors here for funding agency. Just take it whenever it's available. Section 4 is related to the presence of any drug or biological products or devices that will be included in this study. If there is a drug or a clinical or medical devices, then whether it's Saudi FDA approved or not, and if it's not approved, whether there is approval from other agencies like US FDA or EMA or any other agencies, and if it's, then you need to specify it. For non-medical devices in future, for example, diagnostic, lasers or equipments or chemicals, and then you need to specify especially for clinical trial, to specify who will do the, for example, the placebo or property products or any other thing. طبعا not necessarily all these form completed by all research. It depends on the type of the study. And if your study having a biological sample, then you need to specify which sample will be, whether it's blood, urine, tissue, and then confirm that all relevant personnel have trained and confirm that all relevant personnel have completed the blood-borne pathogen. هذه حاليا it's enough اللي هي to complete it just by yes, but maybe later on within the next few months ممكن we can change it, and we will request a letter from the head of, for example, of laboratory department اللي هو ensuring that all individual or declaring that all individuals are well trained and they have a blood-borne pathogen training and immunization. So when the biological sample will be sent outside Saudi Arabia, and then you need to complete the form related to sending the samples outside the kingdom. If there is a genetic material or genetic testing, you need to specify which type and where the analysis of this genetic testing will be conducted. If there is a stem cell, zygote, or gametes and fetus, and then you need also to specify which type of the samples and declare whether there is, you need to complete the related forms. For vulnerable group, this is a very important. If your study containing any vulnerable group, you need to declare it, whether they are minors, pregnant women, incompetent or disabled people, and you need to complete all these related information. So, for example, if your study included a disabled person, it's not enough just to say yes, you need to declare all these related information. If research includes any of the vulnerable group who mentioned above, please sign the following statements. You need to read it and then complete it. And this should be signed by the principal investigator. And this is missed by many of the researchers. ممكن يكون في delay في acceptance. But if your study containing radiation or radioisotopes, you need to complete this part. So after this, all declarations of which type of samples and which type of the agencies that will include it, and then we will move to section 5, which is related to research protocol and significance, summarized. Also, I will insist here that some of the researchers, they did the whole full proposal here in this section. This is a summary, not more than 500 words. Please read it carefully and complete it as per requirement. Provide the proposed project abstract, include the following subheading. Then you need to include this abstract with no more than 500 words. And then you need to describe how this study will contribute to existing knowledge. Also in a brief format, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 statements, not more than 500 words. And then section 6 related to the risk and benefits of a proposed research. What are the possible risks, whether it's physical or psychological? Some of the researches might contain only minimal risk, like اللي هو needle break. ممكن يكون فيها risk of infections. However, it's very rare, but it might happen. You need to declare any possible risk, even if it's minimal or even it's very rarely to happen. Just say it that this might happen. So you protect yourself in this situation, and then if anything happened later on, you already declare this in the proposals and you got the approval for it. So you need to consider any physical, psychological, any social risk, any possible risk that the participants are greater than those participate might be encountered in everyday life. And then after you finish all this part, you need to complete what is the possible or what are the possible benefits for contributing of those participants in your study. There might be no direct benefits to the participants themselves, but it might contribute to the knowledge, just to specify whatever the possible benefits of conducting such type of research. Then section 7, it's about privacy and confidentiality. What are the type of informations? أيضا هنا misconceptions that most of individual, they require, for example, name, date of birth, maybe they require signature, photos. However, none of this is required. In most of the researches, only the ID for individual is required, just in case that they need to go back to the records and to get more information. However, most of the research submitted, we do not need a national ID unless there is a political issues here. But make sure that you do not tick on the national ID, you do not tick on the signature. What we meant by signatures is that you will use the signature or handwriting sample for those participants for research purposes. So it's not mean that they will sign on the consent form. No, this is what are the identifiers that will be used during this research. So most of the studies, they require whether the name, date of birth, yes, it's fine. ممكن اللي هو others احنا نقول اللي تعتبر hospital ID number. That's it. Unless your research is directly related to any of these identifier, you need to justify it, why you need them. The consent, section 8, consent to process, informed consent, whether you need written informed consent or not, or if it's not applicable, either can parental permission, also you need to declare it here. Then after that, you need to complete the Arabic and English form of informed consent attached with this proposal. Then the detailed proposals also make this research objective very clear. Make it SMART objective, specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. unfortunately especially for this year, I don't know what's happening, that most of the papers were, or most of the research were reassessed or rejected because they do not have any clear objectives. Their objectives are non-measurable, it's not specific, and even for the members who read and evaluate this proposals, they do not get any information from this proposal, from these objectives. So always make sure that your objective is achievable, is specific, and no matter what are the way how you present these objectives. A literature review part also is very important. Sometimes your research is very novel. ممكن especially اللي هو بعد الكوفيد era during that period. فإذا كان في عندنا novelty, or for example genetic testing, or for example using of something or some device or some medications for other purposes ما هي اللي معروفة أصلا يستعمل فيها. And we're facing proposals that they said this is a novel study and there is no literature or no previous study has been conducted address this issue, full stop. And directly we have rejected this proposal because even if you develop a new hypothesis, still there are literatures. You've based your research on a hypothesis on a previous scientific background. So what are the theories behind selecting this topic? Add this or this in the literature review part. So no proposal will be submitted without adding literature review, even if it's not directly related to the proposal or to the research topic. What ممكن تكون indirectly related to it by generating hypotheses, ممكن يكون فيها underlying rationale that you need to explain it and highlight it here. Then you need to complete the research methodology, and also this section should be detailed, very detailed, especially this is an interventional study. How you will conduct this interventional study, سواء كانت RCTs or non-RCTs study. You need to specify the control arm, the characteristic of control arm. For example, إذا كانت RCTs, what are the process of randomization, allocation, concealment, selecting of the participants, and monitoring of the medications, the number of follow-up and visits. All these details should be included. إذا كان في عندنا device في test, you need to include the detail of this test, how you will conduct it, and what are the things that you need to explain to the patients, information that you will collect from the participants. Everything should be very detailed here. ممكن methodology NW 3, 4, 5 pages, it's fine as long as you have completed all related sections. And this is one also of the main reasons for rejection or reassessment, is that their methodology is not clear. Do not assume that the individual who are reading the proposal, they understand what you are thinking about. Just explain everything in every single details in this proposal. After that, you need to highlight the duties and responsibilities of the research team, and what is the senior, who are the senior personnel, other personnel, and what's the study delegations, what's their role and the duties and responsibility in this research. And then the timeline for your study, for the first year, second year, depends on the type of the study. Here for the for the full board review, in the main proposals, there is a criteria for research suspension, or termination. So you need to specify when you will stop your trial, your study, or when you will terminate it. If anything is specific, you need to highlight it. If there is nothing, then you say there is no specific criteria here for termination. طبعا depends على a degree of intervention or the type of intervention that you will use. Then list of individuals who will be given access to personal, medical, or biological data. As long as, even if you have, for example, 10 investigator or co-investigator in your research, not all of them who have the access to your the participants' information. Specify who are the individual. هذه specifically إذا كان عندنا international study. لأنه international study ممكن تكون King Saud University or اللي هو King Saud University Medical City part of international study. So about a part of this whole study or the whole project, who have the access or who have the right to access the participants' contribution, it should be specified here. Then the conflict of interest disclosures, you need to read all these statements and disclose any conflict of interest, whether it's present or not present. And then the principal investigator certifications, also the principal investigator needs to read all these issues and then sign it. Here, all principal investigator and other co-investigators should sign and date it. لما يكون في نقص في الsignature ممكن يكون reasons for delayed acceptance. لأنه لازم الفورم يكون approved, read and approved by all co-investigators who are conducting this research. So this is the main proposal. الفورمات طبعا في عندنا references at the end, it's very important. في عندنا appendices اللي ممكن تكون any of these, any related document. ممكن يدخل من ضمن الابندكس اللي هو إذا كانت multinational or multi-center study, main proposal or a main protocol developed in other institute, we need to attach the copy of the original proposal. And then what is the part that will be conducted here in King Saud University. Attaching the original proposal is part of the appendix that you should include it in a multi-center or multinational study. So this is the main form for the proposals. The other forms, which is a very important and it's revised carefully by the IRB member, is the informed consent. We will طبعا informed consent تكون in two formats, and all these two forms سواء كانت Arabic or English forms should be completed. لأن most of our populations or patients will be Arabic speaker. حتى لو ما كان في Arabic contribution of the participants, you need to complete both Arabic and English consent form. This is the checklist for the consent form. It includes all detailed information as required by the Central National Committee. You need to make sure that the expected duration of the participants' participation in the study is highlighted in the consent form. الثاني description of the procedure to be followed detailed في consent form مثل ما هو موجود في proposal. Identification of any procedures which are experimental versus the standard care, you need to highlight it and specify it. Description of any reasonable enforceable risk or discomfort to the participants, and you need to declare what are the possible risks, even if it's a minimal risk associated with the participation in this study. And then the benefits, any benefits to the participants, you need to highlight it in the consent form. Disclosure of appropriate alternative procedures or courses for the treatment, and then you need to highlight it also in the consent form. A statement describing the extent to which the confidentiality about the participants should be maintained, and then if there is a Saudi FDA regulations, and then you need to inspect the possibility that the Saudi FDA may inspect the records. هذه متى تكون اللي هو important إذا بعض randomized control trial, it should be registered في Saudi FDA before يعني it should be conducted in the institute. فإذا كان situation هذا فالمفروض إن you have declared في consent form that the Saudi FDA have the right and possibilities to inspect the records at any time. For research involving more than minimal risk, explanation whether any compensation will be available for injury, also you need. فكل هذه statements should be present in the consent form. Whether any medical treatment are available if injury occur, and then to whom contact to answer the patient's question or participant questions about the research. So لازم يكون عندنا name of the principal investigator, will contact number or contact details. Who to contact in any research-related injury. The statement of participation is voluntary, and then a statement that refusal to participate will involve no loss of benefits to which the participants is entitled. Any discontinuation. So you need to look at all these statements in detail and make sure that the consent form included all these statements. طبعا the KSU-IRB form facilitate the things, and they have developed a template that include all these statements. بس المفروض إنه بعد ما الواحد after you complete this informed consent, you need to go back to these statements, read them, and make sure that you have highlighted the information required in this consent form. But this is the template for English consent form. You need to complete the study title, the protocol, the name of the protocol number still not issued until you get the approval. You need to complete the principal investigator and the address with email address. And then for everything written between brackets or in red color, then you need to read it again and see whether it's applied to you or not, and complete it properly as related to your topic. Just read it thoroughly and then complete it perfectly. What is the purpose of the study? For example, here they said a profile description of the study purpose. Please mention this is a research study. If you complete it, then you need to delete this form, this statement. يعني one of the reasons صراحة that's annoying the member، وبنفس الوقت ممكن تسوي ري assessment انه هذه الديفولت ستيتمنت تقعد زي ما هي, which is wrong. يعني this is just for easiness to complete this consent form. You need to, after you read it and then you complete it in the appropriate way, just delete all these default statements. And then how many people will be taking place in this study? طبعا you need to mention اللي هو total sample size. إذا كانت عندنا multi-center study, you need to specify how many of the participants from King Saud University or King Saud University Medical City will be collected. You need to specify them. Then what would be the study setting or study locations? You need to specify it. إذا كان مكان كلينيك محددة, مكان مثلا department محدد, you need to specify it here. What will happen if I take part of this study? So all these statements written in red just to facilitate for you as a researcher how to complete this part and to make sure that your consent form is appropriately completed. And this is one of the main reasons for reassessment, is that the consent form is not written properly, or the information present here is different from the information presented in the main proposal. المفروض إنه المين proposal والconsent form, whether it's Arabic or English, كلها تكون compatible, كلها تكون similar, contain similar information. ما تكون اللي هو يعني ما يكون each form complete the other forms. يعني I don't want to see information in the consent form which is not present in the main proposal, or vice versa, and information present in the proposal but it's not present in the consent form, especially في methodology اللي هو related to the في الissue اللي لها علاقة بالethical concerns اللي المفروض participants they know about it, اللي هو مثلا في المعلومات اللي موجودة هنا, the questions about the questions related to this consent form, all attached information should be present in the main proposal. ونفس الشيء, the same information should be identical in the Arabic and in the English consent forms. So you need to read all these statements. Sometimes it's not all written in red. For example, here it's written in black, but still you need to remove it as this is a default statement. So you need to go all through this consent form and see which is applicable to you, add it, which is not applicable to you, you just change it or remove it. And then if there is any benefits to take part of this study, what other options are available, and all these stuffs you need to complete it. And then the name of principal investigators, the PI name and mobile number. So complete all this required form. And then section E, it shouldn't be completed because this is related to subjects or to the participants themselves. And even here, no signatures will be added because this is based on getting the approval from the participants. So section F, do not use the following signature line unless a third party consent. Also, this part should not be completed. So if you complete a consent form, you need just remove this statement. You've already read it and you know what's there. So you do not have to complete it or keep this statement here. So the common reasons for reassessment or rejection. Then we've noticed that the rate of rejections during this year صراحة increased compared to the previous years. And the most reasons for why this is rejections, طبعا اللي هو عندنا I have highlighted them or I have summarized them here. Most of them I talked about them while highlighting how to properly complete these forms. ممكن تكون عندنا wrong, missing or incomplete forms اللي هو ممكن إنه this is for full board review and it's completed in expedited proposal form. So this is a wrong format. ممكن يكون عندنا forms missing or incomplete forms, not all required information attached. The authors failed to concise the main purpose of the study, and we've read proposals that we did not understand what is the main purpose of this research. We cannot get it even after reassessment. The use of inadequate language, poorly written proposal. This is a very important. We are not talking about grammatically whether it's right or not right. The way or proper way, scientific way of completing the proposal is not well written. يعني ممكن يكون في poor sequencing, poor written information, مثلا shocked statements. It's not يعني written in a very proper academic way. يعني we are not looking for a very professional writing, rather than it's more understandable writing. The main idea from the researchers themselves has been conducted. This is an ethical approval. So we will approve on what we are seeing, what we have read. It's not on our assumptions that you might do or you might do this. So unclear or incomplete methodology, this is a main reason for reassessment أو ممكن تكون rejection. ممكن يكون عندنا unclear study type or study design. Still يعني after completing a reading or methodology, we do not know what would be the study type, what would be the study design that the researcher will follow. ممكن يكون details of sampling technique or sample size calculation was not provided. وهذه most of the study got the comments that the sample size estimation was not provided. So why do we need it? To see whether this number is adequate or not, to see a scientific statistical analysis findings. So the sample size estimation is very important to be included. وفي عندنا lots of way to assess the sample size estimation. أيضا unclear or incomplete methodology, including in multi-center trials, the sample size from KKUH or King Saud University Medical City is not clarified. So in a multi-center study, make sure that you include the sample size, and you require sample size from our institute. Details of the study population with inclusion or exclusion criteria was not provided. يعني make دائما اللي هو highlight the most important inclusion and exclusion criteria, لأنه even if we are not expert in the field that you are aiming to conduct the study on, there are something that makes sense and you might مثلا not include. For example, if you are looking at psychiatric condition and you will not include or exclude individuals with a psychiatric, non-psychiatric conditions, then there might be an issue with your inclusion or exclusion criteria. وهذه دائما تعتمد how the researcher read thoroughly في literature review. يعني if they read and if they examine the research idea very carefully, their proposals will be very easy to be written. Control arm is not clearly stated. And sometimes they said, or the researcher said, we will control it, or these are the study population, and we will have a control arm and compare the outcome between this control arm and the study participants. And then no details were provided for this control arm. If you have control arm in your study, then you need to specify what are the criteria for those controls. Also, this including that a not specific study location or central site in multi-center study was not specified. ممكن detail of a sponsor or funding sources not provided, especially إذا كان التكنيك or intervention it's costly. ممكن يكون مثلا MRI، ممكن يكون اللي هو laboratory testing, genetic testing that's require مثلا اللي هو budget for it. So as long as it is not a routine of care and it's provided to those patients, then approval from the medical directors now is required. يعني ما في أحد, no researchers will come and, for example, do the functional MRI in our اللي هو radiology department for the research purposes. It's not only for the patient's care, unless approval from the medical directors is getting, and the letter for his approval is attached with these forms. Number of visits is not stated, including the follow-up visits for the participants, سواء كان في main proposal or in the informed consent. The subjects and biosamples details is not specified, including volume, frequency, specimens, and genetic testing. إذا ما كانت not specified, هذه ممكن reasons for reassessment. Also, routine and out of routine procedures are not clearly differentiated. So if you are assessing this is a routine of care or this is out of routine, and then you need to differentiate what are the outcomes that you want to assess. Side effects are not stated, from mild to moderate to severe, physical or psychological or even social side effects. Even if it's a minimal possible risk or harm, you need to state it in the proposal. The management of any risks occurring by the study procedures or products not provided. يعني if there is a risk, how you will manage it. Then you need to specify it in your methodology. So these are the main points that related to incomplete or unclear methodology, and most of these issues كلها ترى تعتبر issue and lead to reassessment. طيب ممكن أيضا one of the reasons for reassessment or rejection an inappropriate written informed consent. إحنا I have gone through the informed consent and how you complete it to avoid reassessment due to this technical issues, how to complete this form. The language in the informed consent is not understandable. يعني even for the researcher, imagine that the researchers, if they did not have a scientific knowledge, they need to understand it in a very easy way. So the language in written informed consent should be written properly in very easy and understandable way, including all details of the procedures that will be conducted. The purpose and objectives of the research are not clearly stated. ممكن it's written very well in the proposal, however, in the informed consent, it's not written very well. Then this might be a reason for inappropriate written informed consent. There might be lack of detailed description of the research procedures. Whatever the procedures that you will do, the patients or the participants have the right to know all details of these procedures. فكلها لازم تكون مكتوبة in the informed consent. The possible risk discomforts are not clearly stated in the informed consent. أيضا informed consent, Arabic and English, information and protocol information does not match. Why I've written this in blue color? Because this is the most common comments that provided and the reasons for reassessment. وإذا كانت for the second time تكون لها rejection. فدائما make sure after you finish completing the main proposal and the consent form that all given information in the consent form it's already present in the main proposal. Presence of default statements, and this is poorly written. حتى annoying أصلاً الشخص اللي قاعد يقراها إنه there is no respect of who will read this proposal or this informed consent.
Dr. Shatha?
Yes.
Just to remind you that can you please conclude around 11:45 so that we can have 15 minutes?
Yes. These are 2 slides, only 2 slides left.
Thank you.
The common reasons for rejection or reassessment, not including a specialized person. طبعا if needed, not for all projects. Sometimes we are facing researchers from other colleges, but then no specialized individual in this area have included as a co-author. we recommend them to add a specialized individual, and this might be reason for reassessment. So in summary, the tips for successful approval: complete all required forms, complete all required information in each form, and then make sure that all information is similar in all forms, provide a comprehensive literature review, clearly state the gap in the knowledge, clearly state the significance and implication of your research, provide detailed methodology. If multi-center studies, provide approval from another institute, provide the original proposal if applicable. In multi-center study or international study, submit it on time, avoid delay in submission, and contact the IRB office for any further clarification. Thank you very much. I know this is a very long session, but hopefully that you get benefits from it. Any question?
Thank you, Dr. Shatha. Definitely, it was very informative, very detailed, and thank you so much. You took us through both the expedited forms and the full board review. So this was very helpful. Now, coming to the questions, we have a question from Rufeda, and then we have, I think, so Dr. Shafi has also raised his hand. So first I will go to the question from Rufeda, which is about the amendments. So she is asking that if you can give us some information, if there is an amendment to the project, to the proposal, then what is the procedure for informing the IRB about that amendment?
Okay, there are 2 types of amendments. If it's major amendments and it's related to the main purpose or main objective of this research proposal, just email Dr. Taha that this is the approval number for our project, and then we have this amendment, and mention this amendment. So it's only one letter. You need to write this letter and send it to Dr. Taha, and then they will consider it, وبعدين they will raise it to the full IRB for revision, if it's required. So it's as easy as it is. It's just one letter that's sent through email to Dr. Taha.
Okay, and thank you so much. There is another question from Rufeda as well. This is about the progress report to the IRB for extended studies. Like if there is a cohort study, so is there do we need to submit any regular progress report?
It's actually, there is a safety monitoring committee, a subcommittee in the IRB, that those committees responsible for the RCTs and very long or extended studies. And this committee is actually, you will be asked from the IRB to present or to provide a progress report. Okay. It's actually, they mention, and this would be on a yearly basis. Every year they will require it, but you will receive a letter from the IRB committee asking to provide a progress report from them.
Thank you so much. This was clear, I think so. Okay, now we have Dr. Shafi, I think so. Yes, Dr. Shafi. Please.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm not having any question regarding Dr. Shatha's presentation. It's very clear. I have one doubt to ask. Maybe Dr. Taha may be here. What is the percentage of rejection for each meeting? How many proposals it will get rejected? That I want to know. And other thing is how to improve and reduce the percentage of rejection. So can we provide, that is we means the college, the research CMRC can provide some technical support to the researchers in terms of methodology. For example, Dr. Shatha has raised about the sampling technique and the sample size and the data analysis. These are the main components as per my experience. So the researcher doesn't put much information about these three aspects. So how to improve this? I think the CMRC has to take a little serious about this, and they give a little bit support to the researchers, because the researchers are the clinicians. They have the clinical ideas. They may lack the knowledge of research methodology and best statistics, but we need to support them. So there must be a badly need a supporting unit to the research proposals before going to the IRB. So this is what I feel. Anyhow, I congratulate Dr. Shatha. She covered most of the things. It is a good presentation. I think the organizers, should record this and upload in the YouTube so that people can see whenever they need about IRB proposals in our college. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Shafi. Just I want to highlight one thing, that what is the flow of the submitted proposal to the full board. For full board, whether you got approved for the proposal, the submitted proposal, or get reassessment if there is a major methodological concern. But in these situations, we will provide the comments how to improve the proposal, and then the principal investigator or the researchers need to reply to this letter and modify their proposal based on the comments, and then provide the updated version. We will call it reassessment. If sometimes rejection, you asked about what is the rate of rejections. Rejection from the first time is uncommon. Very rarely that we will reject a proposal from one time. It happened maybe, I've seen it 2 or 3 times only, that the rejection from the first time. And the main reasons for this, there is no scientific merit of conducting such a type of research, or there is a huge there is a large risk for the participants to be part of this study. This is the main reasons for rejection from the first time. But the major researchers, after we provide them the comments and we gave them a reassessment, they have one chance to submit a complete proposal that addresses the whole comments from the IRB member. If the investigator fails to address all these comments and did not update his proposal, and then the proposal will be rejected. So
Yes, Dr. Shatha, I think maybe I put in a different way. That's what I want to know for reassessment, what percentage? For example, say for the one meeting in the coming month, maybe this month, you have 50 research proposals. How many proposals will go for reassessment with the comments? That's what I want to know, not outright rejection. I'm sorry for that. Maybe 50% with the go comments, or 50% will get accepted at the first instance. This was I want to know.
it depends on the type of the project each meeting. And some of the meetings we have a 50% reassessment. Some of them we have 80% reassessment. But some of this, yes, of these proposals, of the meetings we have only 2 to 3% for reassessment. Most of the projects were accepted or approved. But once they have completed, the main reasons for rejection for full board review is that whether their methodology is unclear or it is a poorly written proposal. It's not in a scientific format. And even they wrote the full proposal in the summary part, they are not completing the format as requirement, or their methodology is deficient. We are not assuming how they will do their research. You are not the person who define it. They need to specify every detailed methodology in the proposal. So this was the main reasons for rejection, reassessment, or the information presented in the consent form and the main proposal were mismatched. And there is information presented in the consent, it's not present in the main proposal, or they required, for example, in the procedures, there are too many details in the proposal, but it's not included in the informed consent. These are the main reasons for reassessment. But the percentage is actually different, from one meeting to another meeting, depends on the type of proposals, depends on the individual who submit this, to the committee.
Thank you, Shatha. Thanks for that clarified. Achha, okay, since the audience are not having any more questions, I just have a quick question. There is a fees attached to the, I think so, to the review process. Is there a fees which is taken by IRB, or am I wrong?
Sorry?
Is there a fees for reviewing the proposal by the IRB? Any fees, any amount, any fixed?
As I know, there is no, but there is Dr. Taha, he might answer. But as I know, there is no fees.
Yeah, actually, I'm Dr. Taha. Assalamu alaikum to everyone. A fee is actually applicable to some of the projects. If it is applicable, then we take. But routinely for Expedite or any project from academic side, we don't have any fee. It was before, but only for the funded projects or project requiring the expenditure more than the requirement, and then we have certain fees, but only for the funded projects, especially for the commercial funded. If it is academically funded, then we don't take any fee. So a fee is only for the sponsored trials or funded project for the commercial purpose.
Thank you. Thank you very much for clarifying this. Okay. Anyone else from the audience? Anyone else has? Okay, Dr. Lubna. Yes, please.
Yes,
go ahead.
Okay. I would like to congratulate you for this session. I think it was very informative and very useful, especially for those who would like to know the updates and details of submitting a project or submitting for IRB approval. I'm sorry. My question is, it's not really a question, but I've been a member of the IRB before, and I know that one of the problems, at least when I was there, was the monitoring of what goes on. I mean, you are providing, the IRB committee is providing a very extensive effort in order to ensure that the research project will be conducted in an excellent way to save and serve patients and people who are participants included in the study. But I know that when it comes to monitoring what goes on, although they are supposed to have the authority, currently I believe they don't. And I understand that this is not only at KSU, it's in all centers, at least, or in most of them in Saudi Arabia. And I don't know if this my information is correct or not, but I know that it's not easy. I've seen people changing the informed consent form. So when they submit it to the IRB, it's one way, and when it is in real life, it's slightly different. The IRB doesn't have the capacity to monitor what goes on with preserving tissue samples and how the interview takes place and so on, etc. I wouldn't give more examples. But what I'm suggesting is that this research club might come with a recommendation that the IRB should look into being the first center maybe in the kingdom to do monitoring and follow-up. Possibly you submit, the IRB can submit a business case, or the department can do that, so that, and how much will it cost and what it is needed. And it might be accepted, it might be rejected, but at least it is an effort to do this. And then when it is repeated and repeated, somebody will respond, because KSU is supposed to be the leader in all aspects of healthcare. And if it took the lead in this, I think that will be fantastic. بصمة يعني a fantastic print that you use or impact that you show to the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr.
Can I answer?
Yes.
Dr. Lubna, a very good question, but fortunately I can tell you in 2015 and 16, the chairman at that time, Professor Khalid Asfali, initiated the requirements of this compliance mechanism, and we had a very good monitor in our IRB, Ophelia Lebanto, and she has a previous experience from UK and research monitoring, and she has done extensive monitoring there in UK and America, and she is, since every year she is monitoring the protocols as per the routine monitoring or requirements of critical projects, and she present the reports also in the IRB board meeting if there is any non-compliance or whatever it is. And in pandemic, she did the online monitoring and whatever is required. So she is a very good monitor, and we have a compliance mechanism in our IRB office. Apart from that, DSMB is the Data and Safety Monitoring Board, has been established last year, in I think last 2 years. And that is the first in the kingdom of the Saudi Arabia that a hospital or institute has a DSMB. To have any project, we see in the review and approval, and then we propose that to be monitored by the DSMB. So we invite the sponsor or the team, as we have a clinical trial unit also to look after the sponsor trials. So we communicate with them regarding the DSMB requirement, and then we propose it. So other things Dr. Shatha can also elaborate you on that. I think Ophelia, I don't know whether she is in the conference or not. So this is my answer to that. Further elaboration could be informed on any question to our office. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I may, I think that's an excellent, I'm glad to hear this. But is Ophelia working solo on this monitoring, or is it a teamwork? Because actually we need a big team in order to do this.
Big team, and that's what I'm saying. We have a DSMB, we have members in Data and Safety Monitoring Board. We have, I think right now we have 6 or 7 members. From different specialty, what is the requirement of a DSMB, and we have a policy approved with that everything. And Ophelia's what she's monitoring on her behalf, the protocols approved from IRB, and because we have most of the projects are for the fast track low risk studies, and then we have full board studies around I think more than 100 in every year. So right now and we have already requested to have more staff, but we are not getting since 2 to 3 years. We are always requesting for her assistance or more team. But apart from that, the DSMB have the 6 or 7 members. So we have that also.
Thank you, Dr. Taha. Now I think so the last question from Dr. Hafsa. Yes, please, Hafsa.
Thank you so much, Amreen. Thank you, Dr. Shatha, for the very informative session. Indeed, I gained a lot of information and new information indeed, because I think there has been a lot of progress made by the IRB. So well done in regards to that. My concern is again with the monitoring of the projects. One of my projects got acceptance, I think, in 2019, and it is an ongoing project, and it is and it's still going on. However, the IRB approval was given for one year only. After that, as per what you have just mentioned, Dr. Shatha, we should be getting a reminder, or we should be getting an indication that we need to submit a report. I didn't get anything. So is this reminder or is this report only for clinical trials or clinical studies, or it is for every study, yani, whether it is community-based, whether it's a cross-sectional study, and if we didn't get a reminder to submit the report, that means nothing is required from us as researchers, or we should submit it automatically just as an ethical, obligation?
Yes, actually, the best answer would be from Ophelia. I will forward your question to her. But apart from that, there is in the letter, when we provide the approval letter, it is written there, I think, for the 6-month or annual progress report if the project extends for more than 1 year, and then you need also the renewal. But we are expecting the investigator to submit a progress report. Anyhow, however, what she is doing, I don't know, since 2020 onward, I told you, as the pandemic was there, so many things could not be communicating with the investigator that way it was before. But usually she sees the projects, and whatever findings she sees the project, if it is more critical or complicated, so she has the reminder. If the window period is already gone, like 1 to 2 or 3 months late or 6 months late, she send the reminder. But anyhow, I will forward this question to her, and she can answer the best because she is responsible for these things.
Thank you, Dr. Taha. So if we haven't submitted the report, but the project is still continuing, do we need a reapproval by the IRB? I mean, do we need to submit the proposal again for another renewal, or we can just go with the first year approval for submission of the manuscript?
Hafsa, I think so. Dr. Taha means that Ophelia is the right person to answer your query, and he will definitely forward your query to her, and she will get in touch with you, I think so. That's
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Since it's 12 o'clock, so we are going to end now. Thank you, Dr. Shatha, very much. Thank you, the IRB team, Dr. Taha, and the rest of the IRB members for this very informative and detailed session. And if there are any questions, more questions, please contact the IRB staff directly. Thank you very much.
Thank you
Wassalam.
very much.